Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
All right, on today's episode, we are going to be predicting the 2024 high school recruiting rankings. So we'll do this via a snake draft. Ryan, you have the first pick here.
All right. It's really always just between two teams nowadays. But I'm going to go with Georgia. They're number one already for this upcoming class. And they got 3 5-stars already locked up. It's just can't go against Kirby Smart and the back-to-back national champs. So took them.
Yep, so this is one of the easiest picks of the draft here then, going second, because it was just whoever you didn't take.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to be taking Alabama, number 2. I know Alabama has edged out Georgia the last 3 cycles, but it's been close. And like you said, Georgia's off to a really good start this cycle, now coming off of 2 straight national championships. So I also would have taken Georgia first by a smidge, but feel okay with Bama at 2.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to go with Ohio State. They already landed the number 1 receiver, who is the number 2 overall recruit. They've already got 4 other 4-stars, and 3 of those are actually on the offensive line, so they're setting that up nice. They've already made the top of lists for more than a handful of other 5-stars, and it just kind of feels like, the back-to-back losses to Michigan and then the last second loss to Georgia in the playoff has kind of ignited a fire on the recruiting trail for Ryan Day. But not much else you really need to say is you can pretty much peg the Buckeyes to have a top class every year.
Yeah, I think those were kind of somewhat easy 1, 2, 3 there.
4 is pretty easy to me too.
Snaking back, LSU.
Yeah, so
and similar to Ohio State, like kind of like no matter the coach or situation. Oh, get ahead of ourselves.
We're naked again. I did
ahead of ourselves. But no,
might as well show it now.
There you go. We're getting ahead, but I'll stick with LSU here. So, no matter the coach or situation, similar to Ohio State, they can almost sleepwalk and get a top 10 class given their talent around them and the program prestige. But overall, I'm kind of hopping on the Brian Kelly wagon. Year 1 was a great success with a lot of pieces coming back. 2023 on the field looks promising. I think he's going to turn that into a top recruiting class. They've already landed 8 4-star commits for next year's cycle. They finished 5th overall last year, and I just don't see why they couldn't potentially match that this year.
Yep, I think we all agree on the top 4 there.
Yeah,
but 5th here, the podcast listeners are going to be very surprised.
Yes,
but the YouTube viewers might already know it's Texas. Number 5, I gave that away, but they were 3rd last year, 5th the year before, and these are high school recruiting rankings that we're talking about. Sark just has them rolling recruiting wise. If things fall apart on the field, I guess there's some risk here. It's not like Sark would be 100% safe, but I think they're going to be a good team, and so I didn't have to think too much about putting them 5th here. There was no one else I really strongly considered.
Fair enough. All right, so at number 6, I went with Notre Dame. It's a little bit of a bold pick here for Notre Dame, but if you look at last year, they finished 11th overall in the rankings, and that was, they only had like 23 recruits in their total class, and the teams in front of them all had like 25, 26, so just a few extra more guys they would have signed. They probably could have jumped up to the, into this kind of range, the 6th area. So they're already off to a good start. They're 3rd currently right now. I know they were off to a hot start last year, but I like what they have coming back. I think they're going to field another good team. The beginning of last year on the field was a little questionable, but then Marcus Freeman finished strong. So I think things are still going in the right direction. I like him on the recruiting trail. So Notre Dame, I feel, is going to have a very good recruiting class. And number 7, I went bold. I took Auburn. I'm high on Hugh Freeze. Yeah, that's I know.
No, I was going to have him high too.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm bullish, but I'm curious to hear your case because I would have struggled to pick them this high over some of the other more sure things. Yeah. But let's hear
I think Auburn just really means business right now, man. Like they we're not happy with the previous coach. They were doing everything they could to get rid of him. Now they got their guy. Now this is it, and this is going to be his first full recruiting classes, which is, for a lot of coaches, it ends up being their best. And for Auburn, they've had consistent top 10 classes in the past. Gus Malzahn did that even at the end of his tenure. He was pulling in some top 10 classes all the time. So it's not like Auburn can't do it. And Hugh Freeze is a good recruiter. They're going to throw a lot of money at NIL. First recruiting class. I just think there's a lot of, maybe playing time, there'll be more availability. I just think there's a lot of reasons why it could have a very, very good year on the recruiting front.
Yeah. No, I can't disagree with anything you said there. It's bold, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. It would not. Yeah. So interesting pick there. Number 8 here, I am going to go with Oklahoma. They were 8th a couple years ago in a transition class under Brent Venables, and then last year 4th. So he has elevated their recruiting to a level that even Lincoln Riley struggled to reach. They're coming off of a bad season, but I think they're going to be much better this year. So I think with some progress on the field, Venables' really good recruiting staff will be able to keep things going.
Mm-hmm. All right, shifting over to Oregon. The Ducks, they landed a top 10 class this past year with Dan Lanning, and they actually dipped into Texas and got a lot of talent. But, their NIL and recruiting pitches have won over the guys that the Southern California schools would normally get. They won a couple battles over SC. They've already got commits from 5 4-stars, a couple of those in the top 100. And if you look at their top target list of guys, and most of them kind of sit in the top 150, they're sitting in a decent to good position on most of them. Certainly think they'll close out on some, and they should definitely be in line for a top Pac-12 class. And so that kind of leads me to USC. I think they're gonna be neck and neck for the top class. I guess USC is gonna be leaving the conference soon, but the Trojans, they didn't have an insane recruiting class this past year, but still, top 10-ish. Now with Lincoln Riley's feet under him in LA, with the move to the Big Ten coming up, not to mention, a Heisman winner with Caleb Williams coming back this year. So the on-field success should be there. And the word is that the collectives are kind of coming along. So I think SC could definitely have a very strong class, especially when you've got 5-star quarterback Malachi Nelson in this most recent class. He would be poised to take over for Caleb Williams. You can pitch to guys to develop around him. I guess the only thing I'm overall curious about Lincoln Riley is if he can get the defensive and kind of line talent, because we know he can recruit and develop the skill talent.
Yeah. That's what kind of carried this recruiting class for 2023 for USC was the offensive side of the ball. And when we released this, Deuce Robinson might have announced his commitment. He's considering, I think, primarily Georgia and USC. So if USC gets him, then yeah, you're right. They did creep into the top 10, but we'll see there. Okay, back to me. Number 11, I'm taking the U, Miami. Again, I don't feel great about this. My last couple picks are coming off of disappointing seasons, but it's just Mario Cristobal is just a maniac of a recruiter, and of course, Miami has NIL behind them. So I'm hoping that even if they do have another kind of disappointing season, that just those two factors will still carry them, near the top 10. And the upside is huge because if things do work out, then they can threaten top 5 if there's enough progress shown on the field. So yeah,
they're tough.
Hard to have Miami drop too far below this with all the money that Ruiz is throwing out there.
Yeah, no, they're not going to go much lower than that. All right, I'm staying in the ACC for me. I'm going to go with Clemson at number 12. They finished 10th last year, but they haven't finished worse than 10th since 2017. And that was really just because their class was so small. So, I mean, they've had some very, very good classes recently. And so, what are they? I picked them at 12 here, and they're always bringing in top 10 classes recently. They're sitting at 14th right now, but, it's early. So, yeah, I feel very good that could finish top 12 or better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good. Well, I mean, now it feels like every team you pick at this point, you're
Yeah.
like, they'll probably finish better than this.
Yeah. Feel good about that one.
Okay.
Oh, my
You're
bad.
back to you, Ryan.
Another orange. They played each other in the bowl game, I believe, right?
In the Orange Bowl.
Tennessee.
Haha.
Yes, there it is. That's right. It was all orange. Tennessee at 13. They were 9th last year. Josh Heupel, great season. I don't know. I think they'll just have a really good season again. I think they'll have a good team, fun offense. Defense keeps getting better. There's just positive momentum around the program. Obviously, the NIL deals are doing pretty well for them. At 13th, that's not like too good for them. Maybe some Tennessee fans might even be disappointed with that if you tell them.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, back to me. We're at the point of the draft where every fan base that's getting picked right now is thinking they're going to finish better, and I'll talk about that at the end of the podcast. I agree with them. Number 14, Penn State. They're often in this range under James Franklin, but they'll sometimes crop up and threaten the top 5. I think everything's kind of headed in the right direction right now on the field. Just coming off of a 10-2 season, got a lot of quality players coming back. They should be easily preseason top 10. Just more positive vibes. Like last year, Franklin was coming off of some down years, and the fans were kind of, they extended him, but are we happy about that extension? I think last year settled things down a bit, so hopefully things are a little bit easier on the recruiting trail.
Indeed. All right, so we're going to Texas A&M, and the Aggies are a hard one here at number 15. They're a wild card. They could obviously have a top 5 class. We saw them have the number 1 class a couple years ago, or they could be outside the top 20. A lot really seems to be riding on the field this year for Jimbo. I personally think they're going to turn it around with Bobby Petrino calling the offense, but the overall question is how much will they turn it around? The defense should be strong. So I think if those 2 units can kind of match this year and on-field success, comes to fruition, it could lead to a really strong class, and it would show stability for Jimbo, and maybe all the Texas talent wouldn't go to the Longhorns now that they're joining the fray in the SEC. And again, I like to look at the top prospects on their list that they have. They're warm on a lot of different 5 stars. So no matter the situation, it really does look like the NIL there in College Station will still bring in the dudes.
Yeah, and their class ranking last year was lower than, like they had a very high average rating compared to where they ranked. They took a smaller class, so yeah, it's a good pick.
And then here next we've got at number 16 Florida State. And Ryan, you've touched on this before. They're a program that they could or should be around the top 10 a lot. They haven't really been that since the Jimbo days. But that means it's not that long ago that they had those classes. I think now that Mike Norvell had the breakout season this past year, got an extension, I think that he can parlay that into a strong class this year. We know they have a lot of potential on the field this year. Everyone's going to peg them as a top 10, maybe top 5 with all the production they have coming back. If they are able to have a strong season, then I think picking them here at 16, I think could be a potential steal as they could have a near top 10 class. They already have 5 4-stars and sitting 5th early on in the rankings. And I also, one thing that I kind of like to think about here and looking at like kind of their rivals or in the geographical area, maybe if the Gators, if they happen to have another down year, they could capitalize on the Florida talent that is going to stay within the state.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, Florida State, they might be just getting back to that.
And Miami might have another bad year. So
right,
that's true. Oh boy. So let's go to number 17. This will be. I already have Miami. And now I'm taking number 17, Florida. I'm taking all these teams that struggle.
Auburn,
so
There's Florida looks promising so far.
Yeah,
but there's some downside potential here. This has major bust potential. Florida at 17 because Billy Napier could be 2 and done. Like if they have a bad season, and I'm not super confident in their quarterback play right now. It looks like as we stand, Graham Mertz is the favorite to be the starter. They lost some assistants this offseason as well, but I'm just taking them for the upside because if they do take a step forward on the field, I'm a huge believer in Billy Napier as a recruiter. They finished 14th, I believe it was, with a small class last year. They're actually off to a good start in the 2024 class. 3 top 40 players already committed. Now, committed is not signed, but I took that into account a little bit. So if they take closer to 25 guys this offseason, then they could easily be a top 10 class. It seems like they hopefully learned their lesson with the NIL deal with Rashada. But this has some boomer bust potential.
Yeah, Florida does. No doubt about that. All right, last pick of the draft at number 18, Michigan. So listen to their final team rankings in the previous 5 years. 17, 9, 13, 10, 8. All of those are much better than 18th. 17th is one better, but anywho, so those are just numbers that they're consistently bringing in really good classes, not 18th classes. And so I feel very, very confident Michigan's going to finish at least 18th. Especially when you consider all the recent success they've had. The past couple of years have been very, very good on the field. They're sitting third for this upcoming class already. They've got I think 6 4-stars at least already. And I don't know. To me, this was the easiest pick. I just looking back at what they've done recently, can't go wrong.
No, they're the only pick there. I think we would all bet heavily that Michigan would finish better than 18th, and that kind of brings me. Let's look at the full list here. If you're watching on YouTube, and I think if you're a fan of any team from like 10th through 18th, you're thinking we're probably underrating you. And like I said earlier, in a weird way, I think you're right. But because like if instead of doing a draft, we for each of these teams set an over under as to where their class would rank, everyone on the list would kind of converge to the middle. Like, because if you go to the bottom of the list, let me pull it up again, and you look at like Michigan, Ryan, we talked about. Yeah. Obviously, their over under would not be 18th; it would be something like
13th or something. Yeah, 12.
Whatever. Yeah. And so would Florida's. Florida's wouldn't be 17th. Their over-under would be better than that. And then if you go towards the top of the list, like let's say LSU, sure, they could finish 4th, but their over-under might be 6th, something a bit lower than 4th. So you get the idea. It's just that everyone...
We just had to pick a winner and a loser.
Yes, we're having to pick at the top. We're just having to pick those that are going to outperform at the bottom. We're having to pick those that'll be worse. We're having to... get
it out, Mike. You can do it.
I know. I'm having trouble wording this, but we're having to pick those who will finish below what we expect their median to be. It's sort of weird to think about, but anyway.
I know what you're trying to say, and I think most of us do. Yeah.
No, I got you.
Maybe I should have stopped like 20 seconds ago then.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Probably.
I think it just shows kind of it seems like some more depth.
Put the list up again, Mike.
It's not like it's not a clear like here's the order of what the top 10 is going to be and that's it. Like honestly, from like what 5th through like 18, like they could all be jumbled up and you wouldn't be surprised. It's not like there's the top 10 and everyone else. Like it's deeper now.
I agree with Trey. I thought at 5 you could really just to me there's a clear top 4. Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and LSU. I think that's just they're going to be top 4. Like at least you feel most confident they'll be top 4. Somebody else could sneak up.
Yeah, someone probably will, but yeah, those were definitely the 4 I would choose. I felt comfortable at 5th, Texas too, but
yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like if they just don't have a good year, they have some downside potential. So you know, I could see them slipping a little bit because they've had some classes that aren't top 5, not even near that. So yeah.
I think there's 3 schools that we need to talk about that might be upset that they're not on the list.
Ooh,
okay.
Well, Ryan, you and I don't know where Michael had him. Ryan, you and I were close on South Carolina. I think
they were my 18th. I actually was, I got crazy. I dropped out A&M. I think it could be bad on the field and just tanks.
I had South Carolina 19th. So I had them right there because they're off to a good start. So that's no doubt. That's good. The other 2 that are just like, we've got new blood and maybe it's too bold, but like Colorado and Wisconsin, like Wisconsin doesn't normally pull in, the top 15
Yeah.
class, but with Luke Fickell, like that culture is changing. It'll be interesting to see where they fall. And then we obviously know how good of a recruiter Dion can be. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
I didn't even consider Colorado, but that's interesting. Maybe I should. I wouldn't put them in my top 18, but
no, I wouldn't either. But they were on the fringe, I think. Maybe.
I don't know if they're gonna have enough. Like
You're
they'll
right.
get some transfers, but
that could be both. That's true. You got to consider transfers for them.
yeah.
But this was, Trey, I think we both said, though, this was in a different order, but these were the top 18 on our big board.
Yeah,
The way this draft turned out. So
yep.
I'm kind of a little surprised, like just based off who he is. Like we're not even, none of us really even considered Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss to be in a top 18
because he's gone heavy transfer portal. So
yeah. They'll be
but still
good,
surprising.
but yeah,
they'll be right around 20th or so, I'm sure. But I don't know, like
Where
what
does-
were they last year? I don't think they were top 18 last year.
Yeah, I can I'll try to tell you in 2 seconds.
Okay.
They were. Whoa, where are they?
They took a lot of transfer. They might have been like 27th. I don't know.
Yeah, they had a lot of transfer.
28th.
Really having to scroll. 28th. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any other final thoughts, or should we close out here?
Over under on Nebraska. Where do they go? Matt Rule. They had a big recruiting weekend.
Why don't you set the over under, Ryan?
25.
I'll say they
always.
do better.
Okay. It's hard to predict they'll do better than 25.
Yeah, that's.
Do we get
don't know.
Raiola? That's pretty much that's the question. Do we get Dominic Raiola?
That's true.
Or not Dominic, but son. Yeah.
Yeah.
If we get him, we'll do better than 25.
All right. Well, let us know in the comments below your thoughts on our rankings here, any disagreements you had. And if you're telling us that that your team was too low, that you think they should be however many slots higher, tell us who you think needs to move down, because that's sort of the tough part.
Yep.
But thanks for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time.